Hello, everybody. It's good to see some smiling faces, and some people have their camera off. That's okay. I was just saying it's a rainy, dreary day here in Raleigh. I don't know if it's like that across the state, but I wouldn't mind being curled up on the couch watching a movie right now. And that's not something I normally really like to do. I'm not good at like just chilling out. I tend to be a little wired, but today is one of those days. So we appreciate that you are here with us on a dreary day. For our January episode of our Career Pathways webinars throughout the year, I wanted an opportunity to, we've tried to kind of make advising a focus this year and really talk about the importance of advising for our Title II students, all Title II students, but particularly those students who are in an IET or on a career pathway, so that they have the ability to remain on that pathway and to continue on to the next steps and have the support that they need to continue through our portion of their career pathway and then continue on to the next piece. And there really is no better partner for us out there than our Title I partners. So wanted to make sure that we reached out to our neighbors and learn from them about different ways that we can collaborate. And you'll hear from Brandi and Lori in just a minute about really how so many of our goals and everything are just perfectly aligned. And so it just makes perfect sense, not just for us, but for our students, that we are working together. Really excited to have Brandi Bragg and Lori Weston here. I know that Lori is a familiar name to many of you. So Brandi comes to us from Northeast North Carolina Career Pathways, and she is in a role that I stole some things off of your LinkedIn, Brandi, so I'm gonna read about you. Her role encourages continued collaboration between regional entities and from education, workforce, and other sectors in order to ensure success and access, which I just thought you did a wonderful job putting that together in one nice little, that's hard to do. So I love that. And Lori, as many of you know, has worked in Title II before. She was a former Title II instructor and coordinator, I believe, at Pitt Community College, and also was an instructor at Beaufort. Do I have that right, Lori?
I was director at Pitt.
Okay. So Lori is a huge asset to us, as she really has a great understanding of both sides of the table here. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandi and Lori. They have a presentation to share with us, and then at the end we can kind of have some question and answer and just a little chat time. Everybody share any successes that they've had or any tips that they might have. So I will turn it over to you, Brandi.
Awesome, thank you. Do you want me to share the slides, or will you?
Would you prefer? Either way.
You're welcome to. That might be easier on your end.
Yep. Let me grab them. Sorry.
No worries.
Had that open.
Thank you for that warm introduction. I did want to point out any NC Career Pathways covers 20 counties in the Northeast. So I cover the region between the I-95 corridor and above 264, but I work with people across the state on career pathways. We actually used to have people who did this work in every prosperity zone across the state, and that ended in 2019. And I'm the only one left in the state still doing this work. So I get the chance to work with others across the state from time to time on that. And so just so you guys are aware, I am powered by, any NC Career Pathways is powered by 3 workforce boards: Northeastern, which is right there on the coast; Rivers East, which Laurie also works for; and then Turning Point, which is that I-95 corridor as well. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to make sure we were kind of all on the same page, because I know everybody uses the term career pathways and it means something different depending on where you are. In our region, this is the definition that we came up with. And so we really highlight that it's about regional and local programs and services. We highlight that it's about youth and adults, because a lot of times our programs are for one or the other and not both. So that made this really important. The education and training piece is also really important, but that part I underlined is really what we're all about. These highly skilled, sustainable careers in high demand industries. So we want to make sure people can have sustainable wages, living wages and even thriving wages in the work that they're doing in our region. So WIOA, as you guys know, has a lot of requirements related to career pathways. And so this is a conversation we've had with the state over time. Like I said, in 2019, they ended the program, but we're still required to focus on career pathways. So these are the things that we try to do, just like you guys do as well. And Laurie will point out when she gets to hers how it all really interacts so well between Title I and Title II. Next slide. So I just wanted to highlight the 4 pathways that are in our region. It's a little different across the state, and my next slide will show you guys that. But advanced manufacturing and healthcare, y'all, those are constant. Every region of our state has a written pathway around this. And I'm going to show you how you can get to that in just a minute. But business support services is a little different for us. We're very rural, and a lot of our businesses don't need a huge IT staff, or they don't need a huge logistics staff, but they need somebody to do that. So they ask us to build sort of this umbrella. And that's what we did with business support services. So it's not just like marketing and finance, it's also IT and transportation logistics. And then agri-science, biotechnology. Of course, we are very agriculture centered here. We have a lot of businesses around that. And then biotechnology is in a corner of our region we call the biopharma crescent. We've got Pitt, Wilson, Edgecombe, Nash, huge biotech companies there. So these are the areas that we focus on in northeastern North Carolina. Next slide, please. Across the state, this is an old slide. I think we are up to like 45 pathways across the state, because even though there aren't career pathways facilitators anymore, workforce boards have still been building out these pathways. They are required to work with K-12 schools and with community colleges to build out the pathways. So hopefully some of you may have been involved in some of this. We do know that Title II often gets forgotten about in stuff like this, but I will tell you, when we were building our pathways, Laurie was the director at Pitt, and she was a blessing to have as we were trying to figure this stuff out and making sure that we were including everyone. So I think if you guys get these slides afterwards, you should be able to click on this slide, and it'll take you to like a spreadsheet that'll show you for your region which are the pathways that have been approved, and you should be able to actually click on the link and see the application, so you'll see who was involved in building out those pathways. So hope that you will take the chance to do that. Thank you. So my last few slides are really just resources for you guys. Again, they are linked, so when you get this follow-up slides, you'll just be able to click and go to it. I hope that you're all familiar with nccareers.org, but just in case you're not, it is amazing. There is so much data in here. There are some really good tools. We love reality check. I've seen light bulbs go off with kids, but also with adults who do the reality check, where it asks you, what kind of house do you want to live in? What kind of car do you want to drive? Where do you want to buy your clothes from? And you go through all of that. How much will your taxes be? And at the end, this is how much money you need to live based on the lifestyle you said. So most of the time, I will say whatever career they thought they wanted is not going to suit their lifestyle. So what NC Careers does for them is then say, here are some careers that will pay what you're looking for. And there's some other great assessments in there too, plus some good resources. So on that front page, if you went all the way down to the bottom, it'll say educator resources, and there are some lesson plans in there. So just a little tip for you. Next slide, please. Guidance and direction for job seekers. These are free lesson plans, and we built this about 6 years ago, I think. Laurie was still director of Title II program at the time, but she helped with this. We also had someone from Boys and Girls Club. We had somebody from CTE in the high schools. And we tried to build this so that anybody could use it. It's not a hard thing to figure out like some lesson plans can be. This literally says, step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. And we have included standards for adult basic ed in there. So it should be a plug and play for you, where you should actually just be able to pull it out and use it with your students. It's all focused on career readiness, and you see this is the model that we used, and I like to explain why we chose this, and it's because it's cyclical. A lot of times you see these career development models and they stop after you get the job, which would be like the marketing self, right? Now you've got a job. But this number 5, performing, is so important. I can't tell you how many people land the job and then they can't keep it because they don't have the right skills to maintain the job. So it's really, really important that they do that. There's also the idea that there was a time that people expected to keep their job for 20 or 30 years. We're not in that world anymore. 2, 3, maybe 5 years is what most people are going to stay. Hopefully at the end of that period, you have grown and you've got some new skills. So then you have to start over again and assess yourself and go through the whole thing. So that's why we chose this specific model for this work. I will say that 29 lesson plans, we put the headings of each.
Uh-oh.
It makes sense, but we do hope that you will utilize these. They're free. Again, you should be able to link to it. I apologize, y'all. I'm turning my camera off because it just told me my internet connection was unstable. But I have one more slide and then I'll be done. So this is the last resource I wanted to share with you, Turning Point Workforce Board, which is that I-95 corridor I was mentioning. They have someone on their staff who is just amazing at creating these Powtoons. And if you're not familiar with Powtoons, they're like up to 3-minute long videos. So she has done a bunch of them, everything from resume writing to what is an NC Works Career Center. She has specific videos in there on what our pathways are. There's some videos that even walk you through how somebody starts from, point A to how do they get to their goal at the end. And again, these are all free for you to use. You can share with your students, and we hope that you will. And I think I can never talk to people about pathways without sharing resources. It's such an integrated part of it. And the other integrated part is that partnership piece. And that's why Laurie and I love to do this kind of stuff together, because we've been partners in this for a long time and making this work happen. So Laurie.
Brandi, before you quit speaking, do you mind sharing a little bit about our Made In initiatives? Because I think that goes right along with the career pathways. It's made, I think, a big difference in Rivers East and in the northeastern part of the state. And I think I'd love to see that expand across the state. And I think it's a wonderful resource for our people in our folks that are entitled to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm putting a link in the chat for madeinpittcounty.com. We were able to do this for 6 counties in the Northeast through a Golden Leaf grant, and we partnered with economic developers, chambers of commerce, community college, K-12 system, and then some counties have like a tourism board or other partners that we were able to bring in. So it's really like a marketing package for the community. It highlights why you would want to live, work, and play there. So we built out some great roadmaps where you can see like all the classes someone could take in high school, what the community college offers, what ECU, because that's our main university here, offers, and then what are the businesses that employ in those fields in that county. And so it's all focused on advanced manufacturing because that's what our grant was for. We hope to expand that to include other pathways as well. But we actually printed out some of those posters for the roadmaps, and we've got wage flyers that talk about if you wanted to work in a welding company, what are some of the jobs? It's not just welder. They have to have other people to do things, engineers and HR people and bookkeepers, and how much money could those people make? Because we know money talks. So we have shared those out with not just our school systems and our community colleges, but we're also sharing them with Boys and Girls Clubs and other influencers who are able to reach youth and their parents about the types of careers that are available. So we have Made in Pitt up, we have Made in Beaufort up, and we're working on the others. There's some great videos involved in those too, where you can really hear the story of how people got to where they are and what some of these companies are doing, and some of the cool stuff that's made right here in Eastern North Carolina that I didn't know was being made here before we were doing those videos. So yeah, Laurie, thank you for pointing that out, because that is a really great project.
Thanks. And Brandi has done a wonderful job of doing that. What we've been doing at Beaufort, because, you know, I'm wearing two hats, is using some of the materials that Made in Beaufort have developed in our Title II instruction. So we're able to contextualize that learning and bring in some of those advanced manufacturing fields. Boat building was one that we are focusing on in Beaufort County. So it's been a great opportunity to just take advantage of resources that are already developed and already out there and bring it into our teaching, our Title II teaching, so that we can contextualize and make relevant the instruction that we're giving our students. So I'm also overseeing Title I programs. I do mainly the youth program in Rivers East Workforce Development Region. The Title I is broken down into three main programs. One is the youth, which is called Next Gen, 16 to 24-year-olds. And another is dislocated workers, so workers that have been laid off or lost their jobs, and also adult workers. So those three programs make up Title I. And I just wanted to share a little bit about why it behooves us to partner. It's for some reason, it's always been a big challenge. I'm seeing things take off here in Beaufort County and in Rivers East region because we're really pushing our career advisors, and this is an advising conference, so I did want to pull in that Title I has career advisors who work with individual adults and youth to develop employment and training plans. So our goal in Title I is employment and training. And I just wanted to show you that the performance metrics for Title I are the same as the performance metrics for Title II. So those are on this slide. So the nice thing is if we have somebody who is dually enrolled and they make an MSG, for instance, or they get a credential, it counts for both Title I and Title II. So we don't have to share the student and compete with each other for these outcomes. The neat thing is by working together, we both get credit for the outcomes. Next slide. So another thing that makes us designed, I think, to work together and collaborate is that our purposes are the same. I just said that we are an employment and training program. That's what Title I is all about. And of course, Title II is adult literacy, but it's in the context of workforce development and career development. So the training, the education, attaining credentials that lead to employment, getting those jobs, getting a sustainable wage, not just a part-time or not just just a minimum wage, but giving them the opportunity to be as successful as possible. Next slide. Our focus is the same. So I feel like, and I always have said this, Title II is very IET oriented and not just an IELCE, but also across the board. We want our individuals that are enrolled in our programs to get training in context of an employable field. And that makes us able to support IETs maybe and give a little bit more opportunities to our Title II partners. Our training has to be contextualized. That is a requirement of the WIOA Title I Next Gen program. So it's kind of cool that, we've always been doing that. We have to coordinate with our partners when we write these grants. Next year, I think, is when the next one is coming in. We show how we are working with partners across the area that we're serving. So it's also local labor market based, and Brandi already shared with you that our career pathways are basically geared towards those high demand jobs that are in our area. And then we also push and promote transitions to post-secondary education. And we have to align our goals with the local workforce development board and our one-stop centers, and we actually help support our one-stop centers. Next. So I wanted to just share this part because I loved it when I got involved in the Title I and found out that Title I Next Gen has 14 elements, and we had been all about 13 considerations in Title II, and they're very, very closely associated to each other in many, many ways. So I like to use this slide just to show that we are required in Next Gen in Title I. Our career advisors are the ground zero, I guess, for working with those individuals, but we have to give them opportunity for tutoring if they need it. We have to help them get attached to alternative secondary school and dropout recovery programs like Title II programs. We have to give them an opportunity for paid work experience and unpaid if the paid is not available. Training, again, occupational training, contextualized instruction, contextualized concurrent education opportunities. All of that is just aligned beautifully with the 13 considerations in Title II. So all of these kind of go hand in hand. We do provide comprehensive guidance and counseling. That is a requirement of our Title I program. And we've always said, and for as many years as I've been in Title II, that our people that are in our programs need that extra advising component that we don't always have the funding for. So partnering would give us an opportunity to maybe braid some funds and have provide that extra advising by partnering with the Title I program, which I think is kind of exciting. So next. So these are some of the possibilities that we have seen across the country. It's still a struggle for some reason, and I'm like I said, I'm seeing it grow here, but it's taken a long time to get to take off, because you have to get, I think, the right personalities and the right people in place. But having one of the recommendations in our guidance for WIOA Title I is to have career academies and cohorts where you have groups of people that are focused on the same career goals coming together and in clubs or like job clubs or just groups where they have similar goals and similar interests. And so you're bringing them together so they're not trying to do it all by themselves. Pre-apprenticeships are a great opportunity to do that. Again, the IET opportunities, Title I pays for training. And so when if you have a cohort in Title II that are working towards contextualized instruction in something like computer integrated machining, for instance, which is an area that we looked at Pitt Community College a few years ago, the Title I funds, if they enroll in Title I, can help pay for that. And Title I, again, covers adults, dislocated workers, and youth. We have a little more flexibility with the youth because we really are trying to help them get started in the right direction and that kind of thing. But all three of those programs do pay for training. We also, when you partner, you get another person and another program that helps you provide that extra support. So instead of one safety net that we're providing either through Title I or through Title II, you have two. So co-enrollment in the program really would help promote success. And I'm going to give you a little example of that in just a few minutes. Also, by partnering, we could have classes at the one-stop centers that are for Title II. We just started a class at the Pitt office. We're so excited about that because now we have individuals that are enrolled in the Title I programs also working towards their high school equivalency in the Title II program, and they're on site. So they have access to both programs very easily. Another benefit of partnering together, because we have partnerships with employers, because we place individuals in paid work experience and on-the-job training opportunities. We've been able to get our foot in the door with employers so we can have on-site programs and classes, which is making it easier for the individual students that we serve, able to take advantage of the many resources and the many services that are available, and going to them instead of making them come to us has been really great. Next slide. So what I am here to ask you to consider is becoming an active partner with your Workforce Development Board. That's how I got involved in this. As soon as I got to Pitt 100 years ago or so, I went to the Workforce Development Board director and I said, how do I get involved? Because I know this is part of my grant as a Title II leader back then. And I know that I have to partner. I have to be able to write into my grant how we collaborate, how we share common goals and that kind of thing. And so how do I get connected? And so she put me on the interested party list, and I got emails about when the board was meeting. I got invitations to the committee meetings. Most of the regions across the state have individual youth committees. They have individual adult and dislocated worker committees. We have a committee for inclusion, which includes serving folks with disabilities. So we try to have those opportunities and actually do invite some of our Title II folks to be part of that. My Next Gen committee right now has one of our region's Title II directors on that committee, because we need to make those partnerships as strong as possible. So I would just ask you to get involved with your board, meet the people who are on the board. Many of them do not know about Title II. I'm sorry to say they're still learning about Title I. I'm sorry to say. So get connected and interact. Again, attend those meetings, attend your partner meetings. Each board has to have partner meetings. In Rivers East, we have one partner meeting a month for each of our counties, and that helps for access, and it also helps for making whatever's going on in those meetings relevant. It gives us an opportunity to network with those who are providing other services or serve those same populations. So DSS is part of that, but rehab. Employers are part of that. We just signed a contract with ECU Health, which is one of our largest employers in the region, to be able to start placing young people in, and hopefully our adults and dislocated workers, once we get this off the ground, into paid work experience with in one of the hospital settings across our region, which is really cool because that gives them more access to experiences that are of interest to them if they're going into nursing or any kind of medical field, pharmacy tech, that kind of thing. Also, you have advisory boards. We ask you to get your Title I people to be a part of those advisory boards. Find out who the providers are in your region. Every region has different providers. Some regions have several in their own region. I know the Eastern North Carolina has 9 counties, and I think 3 or 4 different providers. In Rivers East, we have 2 different providers. So get to know who those providers are, and then meet those career advisors and give them an opportunity to get connected with your programs. I want to just tell you one of the things that we've pushed for in Beaufort County, because I live here and because we're housed here in Beaufort County for Rivers East Workforce Development Board, and because I know Penelope Radcliffe really well. We worked together a long time ago and have been staying connected, and now I'm working for her again. So one of the things that we've done is made sure that our career advisor has gotten connected, and she is on their mailing list. She is out there every orientation, and then she goes out to the college at least several times a month, to meet with individuals who are interested in her program. She's the Next Gen career advisor. So again, the career advisors help those individuals develop not just an employment plan, but an integrated training employment plan. So they do their training, they do their employment. If they need their GED, that is always part of their goals that they set. And then they have to come up with strategies for how they're going to get there. And all of that is supported by the career advisor and guided by the career advisor. So it's a really great way to take advantage, I think, of the Title I services. One of the other things that I strongly urge you to do is find out who serves the people that you're serving. There are lots of other programs in our areas that serve the same populations. Find ways to connect with them. Brandi and I did a model, I guess, networking redesign many years ago. We brought in a lot of agencies, privately funded, community-based organizations, nonprofits, and governmental agencies, DSS and Voc Rehab and places like that, brought them all together and had them meet each other and get to know each other so that it was easier when we had a student, for instance, at Pitt that needed housing. I picked up the phone and called the person that I knew did housing at DSS, and he was able to get me connected with assistance. So it's just a great way. Take advantage, I think, of your workforce development board to find ways to get those partnerships. Next. That's it. We need to be friends with each other, and we need to know who each other is, and we need to know how to be in touch with each other. I think what's missing a lot of times, and I've been complaining about this, Brandi's heard it a few times, we're in our silos and we're all trying to do wonderful things, but we're doing them by ourselves, and we could be working together and being so much more effective and spread that wealth and share those braided resources and make an impact on these young people and adults that we work with every day. That's all. You can go to the next slide. I think it's our contact information.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. Thank you both very much. I really appreciate you sharing this information, and I know that this is something that a presentation that I will go back to frequently to remind myself of certain resources and things. So before I add any questions or comments, I just want to open it up to anybody who's participating and see if there's any questions or comments from the group.
I mean, they have people from NCOA that have offices at the Tipton.
All right, one of the things that I wanted to ask, and I've always kind of had this in the back of my head, but never really had a conversation with anybody about it. So as we are building our career pathways and IETs at our colleges and within our Title II programs, say there's somebody who's just kind of getting started and doesn't have a lot of official IETs within their Title II program that are a part of a career pathway. Would it be a good starting place to look at the Workforce Development Board's plan and what certified career pathways are in the area, and start by maybe making that a starting point with your Title I partner and saying, you know, we're looking at getting some IETs going here at our school that are part of a career pathway. What are you doing and how can we partner together?
But let me share that every Workforce Development Board, the state of North Carolina, first of all, has what is called an eligible training provider list, ETPL. So every region if we're going to pay for that training, if the WIOA Title I money is paying for the training, the program or the provider, usually it's going to be both the program and the provider, have to be on that eligible training provider list. North Carolina certifies, so to speak, the program, and then the individual board, the region where you are, also has got to look at that and then determine that it'll be part of their eligible training provider list. And those are going to be the high demand, high paying jobs. And I'll just give you, for instance, in Rivers East, we don't have phlebotomy as an approved career pathway. And it is approved at the state level. It's approved for several of the colleges that are in our region. We have 4 community colleges. However, it does not pay a livable wage. And CNA ones are trained in phlebotomy. And so if somebody wants to go into that, we usually encourage them to go into CNA 1. There's a very high demand with CNA 1, and our partnership with ECU Health is making a difference with that, because they're hiring CNA 1s with or without a high school diploma, and then giving them opportunity to move to the next level so that they can get their CNA 2. And that's where they can make that difference in the wage. So that conversation definitely goes with your workforce development board. Brandi, were you going to say? Brandi also, when Brandi did the Made In projects across the region and is still working on those, and it's just a wonderful, another wonderful way for us to identify those high-paying jobs. We found boat building in Beaufort County. It's one of the biggest growing industries in northeastern North Carolina. It is huge, and it's across the eastern part of the state, not just our region, but it wasn't on the ETPL. So we have let people know over at Beaufort Community College that it wasn't on the ETPL. And so the director of that program right now has gotten it submitted, so that the next time the board meets, it'll probably be an approved pathway. So those kinds of things, again, if you know something in your college is big and there's a big demand, and maybe it's low enrollment, like computer integrated machining was at one time, then it's a great idea to talk to your workforce development board representatives and find out what needs to be done to make sure they get on the ETPL.
Yeah. The only thing I want to add to that is, I don't think I mentioned this when I talked about building pathways earlier, but we had to have the data to back it up, and the employers had to say that this is a high demand, high skilled job with sustainable wages. So when you look at what's in those pathway plans, just know that there is that data and those employers behind them.
Right.
Thank you. Another question I had, can you talk a little, you kind of touched on pre-apprenticeship. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what that looks like for your participants?
We're still pushing that area. One of the things that we work with the North Carolina apprenticeship at the system office as well. It's just another way that we can connect with employers. They're willing to. In the Next Gen program, we provide paid work experience. So we can take a young person and place them in the job. We pay their salary through WIOA funds while they're being trained. So they can actually be co-enrolled as a part-time situation. It's not full-time. So they can actually be in the training that the employer determines that may be needed to help them be successful on the job. Plus the employer themselves provide the extra supervision and training that may be needed. HVAC, for instance, is an area that we could build pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeships. Brandi, did you want to talk a little bit about transformers? Is that an area?
Yeah, let me note too, you guys may already be familiar with this, but you can create a pre-apprenticeship program for any already registered apprenticeship program, but you have to have that full apprenticeship program before you can create the pre-apprenticeship. In Pitt County, we have this sort of an anomaly, and we are like trying to get these other school systems to get behind this idea, but it was really very organic with some of the local employers. It was a couple of HVAC companies, electrical companies. Now they've added masonry and a bunch of other folks, but it started with 7 employers. They realized they needed to grow their own. So what they do is every year they go into the school system in the fall and they meet with juniors and their parents. And they go through an application process. They had 84 applicants this year. I don't think they have even 50 slots for these 84 applicants. But these students then get to, once they've been approved over the summer, they will go work. They will go on the job with the HVAC guy or the electrical guy, whoever it is, and they'll work all summer. And so a couple of kids that my son went to elementary school with have gone through that program. They didn't have to go anywhere else. They were able to get the hands-on learning. They got some other credits they needed through the local community college, and now they are working full-time, making really good salaries, and it's all because they were able to get their hands in there and see what worked for them. So it's been a really beneficial program in Pitt County. It's open to all of their high schools, and again, we keep hoping to see it replicate across the state.
Not only in the high schools, but also go into those Title II. You know, I'm a big Title II advocate, so I'm pushing whenever we have some really cool projects going on that are connected to the high schools. The first thing I ask my boss is, can we extend this to Title II? Can we get those teachers, those programs, those students involved in it too? So we're looking at some grant opportunities to do exactly that. So that, and it just takes, I think it takes, Lindsay, a little bit of initiative from somebody that says, you know what, we'll take this and design it to fit our program, to design it to meet the needs of our students.
Thank you.
Partnerships.
Yes.
Partnerships.
Yes, definitely. And we're so thankful to have Title II advocates working on our behalf. So thank you for that. I have another question, but is anybody, I'm asking all these questions. Does anybody else have any questions? That feel free to interrupt me. All right, my last question is, sometimes we will have programs that talk about wanting to partner with Title I, but that there is a waiting list or there's not enough funding. Can you tell us a little bit about how, like, your funding model, I mean, not, you know, you don't have to go into the whole big thing of it, but kind of like, how does that work? And like, what does that
We don't have a waiting list, and I'm surprised anybody would, but okay. Here's the bottom line. All people who come into the NC Works Center that are looking for employment, no matter who they are, qualify for services. We have a model called integrated service delivery. So anyone that comes that needs help with resume writing, interviewing, job search, work readiness, anything like that can get those services. So I do feel like there are different regions across North Carolina that are better than others at getting that message across. We don't have a wait list. We welcome individuals who qualify. One of the hard things is for Title I, you have to qualify. You have to be eligible for services in those programs. But as far as getting the assistance you need to do job searching and job attainment, anyone qualifies. So the qualifications typically for adults, they have to be low income. For dislocated workers, they have to have been laid off from the job. They could be displaced homemakers. They could actually have been given notice that their company is going to be laying off or that kind of thing. So they have to be dislocated. They don't have to be low income though, because in a lot of cases, those are people who may be making good wage, but they're going to lose that wage soon because of the company shutting down or moving or that kind of thing. For youth, if they're out of school and they are considered, and I just want to make sure everybody knows this, if they're in a Title II program, they're still considered out of school. Okay. So, and I think there was some confusion over the course of a few years when we were trying to get that collaboration going between Title I and Title II. If they are out of school, if they're a high school dropout, they automatically qualify for services. If they are an English language learner and low income, they automatically qualify. If they are basic skills deficient, we use TABE and CASAS to make that assessment. If they are level 4 or lower and they are low income, they automatically qualify. If they are parenting youth 16 to 24 years old, they automatically qualify. There are eligibility determiners, but almost everyone can qualify that we serve in Title II.
Okay, maybe it was more specifically about, and I'm not sure, maybe it was a miscommunication. But what about like funding for supports as far as like transportation? Or one of the struggles that a lot of our programs have with running IETs associated with career pathways is the tuition, the workforce training tuition. So is there kind of like separate requirements for eligibility or separate pots of money or budget where you run out, or how does that kind of work?
Well, good, very good question. We are WIOA funded, just like Title II. Those eligibility factors are part of that. They have to be enrolled, but we do provide supportive services for transportation, for uniforms, for equipment. The only drawback with training, and we do pay for training, is if it has to be on the eligible training provider list. So they can't, for instance, again, they can't come to us and say, I'm going to go into, I want to major in English. And so I'm going to take my first courses in community college and then move on. We don't support English unless it's English language, right? So if they're majoring in English because they want to become a writer or they want to go into journalism or whatever, we don't support that because it's not a high demand job in our area. So it has to be on the eligible training provider list. What I have seen, Lindsay, in some cases is there's a lot of individuals that come into our program that are seeking assistance with CDL training, and because that's big. And we do support that. One of the things that we've decided as an organization here is we kind of push those individuals into the adult and dislocated worker program because they have more funding for training than the youth programs. But both of them have, I have not seen them run out of money for training. But again, we're rural and we're low.
I was going to say,
we don't have the numbers that you might have in Orange County or Charlotte or Raleigh and those kinds of places, because they have a different set of problems, I guess, and different set of challenges is the way I guess I should make it. But our challenge here in Eastern North Carolina is finding the individuals to take advantage of our services and getting them enrolled.
I was going to say the fiscal year may be similar to what you guys have, but it ends June 30th.
Yep.
And so a lot of times in those last few months, you're going to find that some teams run out of money, and that's when they'll start doing the wait listing. But what I would say is, hey, can I be, first on the list when that funding comes back through?
Yeah, July 1, there's more money coming in every July 1. So that would be my recommendation as well, and get them in the programs, because they can get other assistance that may not be financially as challenging. They can get the work readiness opportunities. They can get, like I said, we actually, one of the things that we do in Rivers East is we provide childcare, but they have to apply through DSS first. And typically what we get from DSS is that they're 877 on the wait list. And so once they can prove to us that they've applied for it, we can give them that assistance while they're getting their training, or while they're getting their work experience, that kind of thing.
Awesome. I know that is something that a lot of times we can't always offer that funding through Title II. So that's one of the great ways to to partner with Title I
Absolutely.
to help student transportation is always a huge thing. So funding for things like that, as well as helping cover the workforce training piece is something that oftentimes is a huge challenge we face. So a great opportunity for our students and our programs.
We pay for transportation to go to the GED classes if we need to. So if that's one of the barriers that the individual faces. So those are things that especially in the earlier part, July 1, let's get them all in there. But we're right now in Rivers East. So we've got 4 community colleges here. So I'm just shouting out Roanoke, Chewan, Beaufort, Martin, and Pitt. We have money. So, they have to, the only thing is they have to enroll with us in order for us to be able to help them in that way.
Right. Right. Any other questions from anybody else?
Well, Lindsay, if I could just note, I put some things in the chat, including Laurie mentioned networking redesigned, and we put together a DIY. So I put a link to that in the chat in case somebody wants to replicate that. It is a really great way to meet those community partners.
Lindsay, this is Doree Jackson. I just wanted to make a comment. Because all the workforce development boards are different and the providers are different, these contracted providers, even in one community, because we're in the Cape Fear region, and when you have several providers providing benefits, the way that they write their grant determines how they can spend their funds. So if that provider does not request funding for transportation, they may choose not to pay transportation. It's really great as an advocate for Title II that you not only communicate with the contractors, because they're the people who come out to the school, but that you also communicate with the programs manager, with the Workforce Development Board, and just explain what your high needs are. And then that way, when they do negotiations with their contractors, they can, they will be more likely to approve when they put in incentives or transportation, because like with the youth program, there are all sorts of incentives that you can give them. You can actually pay them a stipend when they earn their high school diploma or equivalency. You can help them with school supplies. We've already said transportation. There's just so much that can be spent, but sometimes the contracted providers do not even know that they can do that, and they don't ask to be able to do it.
Good point, Doree. Thank you for speaking up. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And hey, Lori.
Hey.
Well, thank you both so much, Lori and Brandi. We're so appreciative to you. And please, anytime that we can return any favors to you and do anything to enhance collaboration, please let us know, because this is really just a way that we can really best serve our students and our communities. The better we work together, the better we are able to serve the people that we support. So thank you so much for your collaborative spirit and for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
This has been great. Thanks. Good to see so many familiar names. I didn't get to see all your faces, but it's good to see you.
Yes, thank you. And I also, just to represent the PD team for the system office, I did want to direct you all to our calendar, which is live on NC Title II. And we do have another Career Pathways webinar coming up. I believe so. This is correct, Lindsay, that we've confirmed this, but please let me know if that's incorrect. We've got one coming up in February the 22nd. So you can now register from our calendar. So please go check it out. We've got that upcoming Career Pathways webinar. We've got some co-aid webinars coming up. And you can also now find the information like the slideshow from today, the recording from today. Eventually that will be uploaded to the calendar. So you can actually access all the materials from our previous webinars on this calendar. So please go check it out. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, everybody. Well, go enjoy a rainy, dreary evening at home. I hope you all get to snuggle up with a blanket and some good TV or something like that tonight. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.